Hi everyone, it's Kino. I'm here in Copenhagen, Denmark. Today's clip is especially for teachers of yoga or people who are thinking about becoming teachers. Something that's been on my mind recently is, as a teacher, to find the balance between keeping true and honoring the tradition and giving students what I guess you could call would be a good customer service experience. You know, as yoga teachers, I think there's probably two worlds to straddle, which is the world of being a really good host and welcoming new students into the tradition. And I would say this is very much from perhaps a Western perspective of providing a service for people who are paying for class and showing up and being interested in the journey. And many people are used to getting, you could say, really good levels or high levels of customer service from, great businesses and hotels and industries that provide that. And then the other aspect that the yoga teacher really needs to represent is the sacred tradition of yoga as a spiritual path. Now, why those two don't immediately sync together is this concept of craving and attachment. Usually in our regular lives, we generate attachment towards those things which feel really good. Now, getting a great customer service experience where you get exactly what you want and you're told that your thoughts are right is, feels good, right? If you go to Starbucks or something and you say, hey, my drink's not hot, and they're like, right, let me fix that for you, here's a free drink card, you're like, wow, score, awesome. So when you come into the yoga class and you're teaching and the student's bringing, that attitude of, hey, I don't like this, can you fix it? The same attitude that you would, complain if your latte is cold it's supposed to be hot. Now, if you take it into the yoga class as a teacher, it's this delicate situation to negotiate that, because I guess you could liken it to parenting. I mean, I don't have any children, so I can only really imagine. But I think it's a little bit like, if you have a child and your child wants to eat candy all day, and because you're older and experienced and maybe you've had a few cavities yourself, that, hey, eating candy all day is not really the best for you, but you also don't want to, hurt the feelings of your child because you care about them. So there's a delicate balance as a teacher in providing, a good customer service experience, a good welcoming, embrace of the journey into yoga, while at the same time healthfully providing limits and boundaries for the student to inhabit and experience and orient the space in. For example, in the Ashtanga Yoga tradition, we are advised not to drink water during the practice. In exercise or in fitness classes, the almost exact opposite thing is stated. Drink lots of water, stay hydrated. So people who come to the yoga practice from a background in fitness often have resistance to not drinking water, especially if it's a hot day or if it's a hot class. Now, of course, there's reasoning and logic behind this. For example, one reason is because in the Ashtanga Yoga method, we're really working to cleanse and purify the internal organs. So when you put water into the system, that starts the digestive process and it starts to put a little bit stress on the organs. So when we press on the bladder and we press on the internal organs, it has less of a purification effect. The second reason not to drink water during the Ashtanga practice is because water is the opposite of fire. The whole Ashtanga Yoga method is built on internal fire of purification. And so when we place water in the body, water puts out fire, which is great if it's a forest fire, but not great if your intention in the practice is to cultivate that inner fire of purification. Now, as a teacher, to communicate that in a way that is both compassionate, kind, patient, and loving, while at the same time firm and steadfast and unwavering, is the very essence of yoga itself. It requires you to be the perfect balance of the opposing forces of love and acceptance, and at the same time rules, discipline, devotion, and boundaries. It's a really hard world to straddle, and if you haven't mastered that, within your own practice, you can sometimes, and I've totally been guilty of that, either being afraid to tell people what the rules are, or the other side, being way too strict and coming off, I guess, like a disciplinarian or military sergeant or something like that. Now, as teachers, you have to, constantly use whatever circumstance you're coming into contact with as the opportunity for self-reflection. So if you know that there are certain rules that are followed in your tradition and you're a teacher of that tradition, it's your job to be the best ambassador of that tradition as possible. So you have to communicate the rules and the devotion and the discipline of the tradition while maintaining an attitude of love and compassion, acceptance and kindness of your student. Realizing, almost looking at them with the same love as a parent would towards a child, sharing the rules and discipline, not because the student is bad, but because you are interested in taking care of them. You're interested in providing them with, as a nurturing an experience as possible. Now, some people have said, that the concept of ahimsa in yoga is nonviolence, and so that we should let people, have whatever their experience is, whatever they enjoy, we should just let them have it. I kind of think that's perverting, you could say, the notion of ahimsa, because ahimsa it means non-violence. But what is truly violent? Letting someone follow their cravings and attachments unto a painful end that would lead to more suffering, or telling them that, hey, if you stop this activity now or change the way you do it, then it will lead to a healthier, more pain-free life later. Great example is the child that I gave you before, the child who wants to eat sugar and candy all day, and the parent who knows, hey, if you do that, you're going to get cavities. So by short-term pain, which you could say violates ahimsa, but my idea would be that in the grander perspective, it doesn't. Compassion, truly wanting what's good for the student long-term, truly wanting what's good for them. And good, not meaning like, hey, I want you to eat lots of candy so you get a sugar high. No, a long-term good, meaning that the teacher has at their heart the true and ultimate realization of the student at their aim. So with sincerity, they're sharing, you're sharing whatever knowledge you have. And I mean, if the situation is difficult, that only requires the teacher to be so much more compassionate, so much more clear, and so much more grounded in what their intention is and coming into the interaction with the student. When you begin teaching, it's your intention, it's your sincerity that will really shine through. So the more that your heart opens, the more that you're aligned with the compassion, the truth, the integrity of the tradition, the more you'll be able to straddle those two worlds between the sacred tradition of yoga as a spiritual path and the notion of meeting the student where they are and sort of presenting the tradition in a way that they can open to it and that they'll be inspired to come back and practice.